All right, good day, people. Welcome to the WayFinder podcast. The more I do this, the more I'm glad that I'm actually doing it. It's a way for me to think out loud and tinker with some ideas that I'm sort of playing around with, and sort of help me figure out my situation as well. Uh, so by my situation, I mean my life and sort of my role in the world and things like that. And eventually, I would love to have guests on. A lot of people who I follow on the Twitter sphere but I want to bring them in to discuss specific issues. Sort of, there's a podcast that I listen to that I really enjoy. It's called the Econ Talk Podcast by Ross Roberts, and it's a phenomenal podcast because he brings on a guest and he discusses a specific issue. He reads their book or an article that they've written and they discuss it. Jim Rudd does the same thing. I enjoy that. I eventually want to get to doing that, but for now I'm just playing around with ideas, and I don't want to bring people on without actually having something that they've done that I really want to break bread on. And that's it. Another thing, doing podcasts now. Everybody sort of there millions of, I don't know, but there are hundreds of thousands of podcasts out there. And what we have now is that we now have so many templates that people are not really realizing now what podcasts are for. When they started, it was just the discussion forums, right? So they're ways to really brainstorm ideas, to test out ideas, to have discussions. They're not the final word in anything. And I'm not using my podcast as the final word in anything. It's where, so this podcast, today's episode is, I'm going to be talking about physical health. And physical health is an area where we know a lot, but we don't know enough, right? It's the ultimate, I like to call it the ultimate N of one experiment, right? So people, there are going to be scientific studies that are done on groups, and they're group measures, and they're things that have been found to work in a certain group, like male, female, certain age groups, things that have been shown to be beneficial to certain ethnicities and certain like race, gender, things like that. And I like to say that those are fine, but they won't apply to you exactly. And as such, I'm not going to delve into any specific studies. I'm just going to show an outline, an overview of how I see health in general, and sort of how I'm sort of taking care of myself. And I would love to, and I'm putting this out there for discussion too. I want to hear what people have to say regarding what I'm putting out there. But before we begin, I would just like to read an excerpt from a book called Discipline Equals Freedom by Jocko Wilink. This book was very helpful to me at a time in my life where I just needed to understand what I was trying to do. I was in grad school. I was trying to really, I needed structure to my life. I was doing a lot and I was getting a lot done, but some stuff was being done shoddily because I wasn't managing my time. I was still getting them done. That's what I've noticed is that if you do things enough, so I had a lot of practice reading papers, doing assignments, even writing, and so I would do shoddy work that was good enough, but I had an amazing advisor who wasn't willing to accept good enough from me, and he wanted better from me, and I had to sort of figure out what was missing in my life. And at that point, discipline was, and that's sort of the theme of what I'm going to talk about today, is that I've noticed that whatever health plan you choose to take on, and the many different diet plans out there, there are many different exercise plans out there are many different sleeping plans out there are many different, those are the three main areas and sort of challenge things that you're going to do in life, is that as long as you have enough discipline, and to discipline, one, to push to follow your plan, and number two, discipline to keep learning. Because what you're going to notice is that you need to incorporate, because one diet plan, one exercise plan, one sleeping routine isn't going to work all the time. You need to be adaptable. So one, if you have enough discipline to be adaptable, but have enough discipline to stick to a plan, things will mostly work out. If you're disciplined, things will mostly work out. So before we begin, excerpt from Jocko. People look for the shortcut, the hack, and if you came here looking for that, you won't find it. The shortcut is a lie. The hack doesn't get you there. And if you want to take the easy road, it won't take you where you want to be: stronger, smarter, faster, healthier, better. And that's from Jocko, right? If you want to be stronger, smarter, faster, healthier, better, you gotta walk the line, right? You have to find areas of discipline and do them. And so right now, my life situation isn't exactly what I want it to be, but I have to put in discipline into my sort of open day, and sort of find a way to eat well when I can, to work out when I can, to sleep well, to give myself a little bit of challenges. And it's tougher now because my life is sort of too open, and that's what I've noticed, right? If there's not enough structure in the day, you sort of let go of things. But anyways, let's get started on the physical health podcast. So first of all, the what are the components of healthy aging? So I took a course in grad school, and it was an aging course, and really the main things that so in youth, sort of from ages, I don't know, maybe 13 to 30, let's say, your health sort of, if you're active enough and you don't drink too much and you don't do too many drugs, your health sort of takes care of itself, right? You don't really need to worry about disease that much. I haven't gotten sick too often, and honestly, in my mental acuity, I'm fairly sharp, and I don't have any major physical disability. Actually, I've never broken a bone, and never been hospitalized for too long for anything physical. And as such, in youth, you don't really, if you're active enough. So I played sports. I played soccer in high school. I played intramural sports in college. Also played intramural sports in grad school. Worked out a lot in grad school. Worked out a lot during my first job in Seattle. So I'm very, and I bike a lot. I walk a lot. So I'm a physically active person, and as such, I want to maintain that in twilight years, which means that as I age, so right, I'm 28. As I age, I want to stave off mental decline, and I still want to be mentally sharp. I want to stave off sort of disease, which means I need to keep my immune system healthy, and that's an area where there's a lot out there, but I don't really know much. I know much, but I don't know as much as I need to give any advice. So moving forward, nothing in this podcast is advice. It's just discussion. And like I said, your health, your physical health specifically, is the ultimate end of one experiment, right? It's you taking things that you see work for other people, implementing them into your life, and deciding to move forward, right? And it depends on what your goals are too. So mine is healthy aging, right? So for my youth to my twilight years, so I'm 28. I want to stave off mental decline, like I said, stave off diseases, and stave off physical disability. And that's really what I want to do moving forward in my life. And so the factors that can really that the main factors beyond like genetic factors, sort of genetic epigenetic factors that affect disease and mental decline, because some people have predilections for certain things. Physical decline, mental decline, things like arthritis, things like Parkinson's, things like dementia. Beyond those things, and barring any sort of major accidents or diseases such as like cancer or motorcycle accidents, just sort of physical accidents that will cause you to break bones, or even cancers, things like that. The three main behavioral approaches, and I'm a very behavioral guy, because I don't like to take and I consider medicine part of diet. I don't like to take medications, because I've seen sort of the downstream effect of people getting addicted to medication or such. And I try to stave off. I like to do things as naturally as possible. For me, that means behaviorally. So the three main behavioral approaches to maintain health into your twilight years is physical activity, rest, and diet. And those are things that you can actively control, right? You can't. I mean, there's now like with things like CRISPR, where you can sort of change your genetic makeup, and even with certain medications, you can probably like alter. I don't know the cutting edge science in genetic fields, but beyond those areas, right? Beyond meddling with your underlying genetic makeup, the behavioral things that you can really do, really monitor your physical activity, make sure you're active enough, rest well enough, and also and monitor your diet. So those are the three areas I'm going to talk on. And like I said earlier, the meta goal really is to find something that's both sustainable and disciplined, and also actually effective, right? So what you notice is that what's effective for you in the early parts of your life will not be as effective, because again, as you get older in life, you maybe have more responsibilities, maybe you have more children, and you don't have as much time, and things change, and as such, you need to somehow find something that's both sustainable, effective, and that you can do disciplined. But like I said, you need to be adaptable enough to be able to go, okay, this thing is working, but I can't do it because of the other obligations in my life, and as such, I need to figure out a way to change with the times, but also maintaining sort of, and maybe change your goals too, right? So So that's sort of what I'm going to go into next is for me personally, what does this look like? What do I want to achieve, right? And so this is so for me, I want to develop. So this podcast is sort of me. I'm a 28-year-old male with history of physical activity and no major health deficits at all. So I want to sort of use this podcast as a platform to really see what a daily physical activity will look like for me. And I also have another challenge physical activity because so there's something known as post-traumatic growth, right, in psychology, and it also applies to the body as well. It's something called I don't know the name right now, but if you take a bone and it breaks, right, the point of healing gets the process of healing makes it much stronger, right, and the point of that is that to really elevate your game in any like physical activity game, even to sort of help you with your dietary situation and your rest, you need to challenge those systems. And by that, physical activity is easiest to think about, right? So you challenge physical activity by maybe you decide to run a marathon. So every day I don't run it. I'm not an active runner, but I walk a lot and I like to cycle. And so what I can do, challenge physical activity, maybe run a 5K, run a marathon, push beyond sort of my regular day-to-day is, and so such that I can elevate myself to a new plateau, right? So challenges are good for that because they can take you further, right? So for something you can do to challenge your rest would be meditate for long, meditate for, because I do some meditation every once in a while, but I don't meditate for close to an hour. But what if I choose to meditate for an hour? So I'm gonna, over the course of this podcast, I'm gonna sort of given the goals I have for myself, and that's the thing, right? So that's what physical health should really be about. Physical health should really be about, okay, I have certain goals I want to achieve, and mine are centered around healthy aging. So let's go to this. Let's backtrack a little bit. My goals, my big picture goal is I want to in my twilight years be healthy. That's my meta goal. So you pick your meta goal, and then from that goal, I need to develop a sustainable plan that's both I can do in a disciplined fashion and both adapt given certain circumstances in my life. So now I'm going to go into what that looks like for physical activity. So physical activity, there are 6 main domains that I like to look at physical activity as. There's endurance, just that's your cardiovascular health, right? How what's your stamina, right? Like right, how long can you run without getting fatigued, right? And that's different if you're doing if you're running, just running, or if you're cycling, if you're walking, those things they demand various things of your aerobic system, right? And so for me, what I want for my endurance, my endurance sort of when I think I'm doing well enough is I want to be able to run a 30-minute or a sub 30-minute 5K all the way through to my 70s, because I've seen a lot of older gentlemen and women do it, and it's like it seems like a plausible goal, and it's like that's just a way for me to keep track of how I'm doing endurance wise. And I like that outcome because, like I said, if you look below, it's like I like functional outcomes, right? I don't, if I sit down in a room and somebody takes my heart rate and they tell me my systole level and diastole level while sitting down, is that really a good measure of how well I'm doing? Or if I can go out there and run a 5K and see, okay, what's my return to resting heart rate time, So I run a 5K, my heart rate gets elevated, and I go, okay, this is now. So obviously, as I age, it's going to take me much longer to get back to resting, but maybe that's a manageable level, right? So that's something I can actually measure myself in the context of actually pushing myself. And then the next thing is speed, such as my sprint speed, my agility, balance. Agility is just how quickly can I turn, how quickly can I accelerate, decelerate, that things like that. That's part of speed too. And balance, I'm not trying to be a ballerina dancer or ballet dancer or anything like that, but I want to be able to, I don't know, stand on one foot and maybe hop around, and power. So how quickly can I really generate force to do work? And I chose soccer and tennis because I like to play those sports and I like to watch them, and I like to play them recreationally. And I don't know, I want to have grandkids, and I want to have a big family, and I want to be able to play around with them. And that's sort of the meta goal here is I want to, in my twilight years, be able to play with my grandkids and things like that. So if I can play soccer and tennis on a recreational level, then I can do those things. So that's sort of, and playing soccer really affects. If you want to play soccer effectively, you need to be able to move quickly. You need to have agility, balance, and power. So while I can do those things, it's a good test of those systems, right? I don't know what a good measure. I don't know. I don't like measures that are taken out of context, right? So tennis and soccer are good in context things where I can also even test out my endurance and my strength. And they can really, and if I start to slack on those, if I play soccer and I feel and I go, wow, I'm not playing soccer and tennis up to the level that I want to be playing. Obviously, I need to consider my age as a factor, but I need to consider, okay, what can I do to change my physical activity? What else can I add? What else can I, and also my diet, or maybe I'm not resting enough. Maybe what can I tweak behavior, or maybe then I can go, okay, what do I need to do medically, right, from a prescription standpoint to help me get to the point where I can actually perform better. And the last thing on the physical activity domain is strength. That one's quite straightforward. Is I want to be able to lift heavy things, and I chose the 3 main exercises, so bench press, squats, and deadlift. And as I age, I want to at least be able to lift my body weight, or at least 1.5 times my body weight, right? Because I feel like that's a good standard. It's something I've seen on various sources online. But again, I like the domains. Those domains are good. And now you just need to find, if you want to do something like this, I want you find the activities, find the things that you can do that you enjoy doing, that you can sort of let you stress this different domains, and as such, as you stress them, you improve them. Okay, so the next thing is diet. So this is a very, very loaded area. There's lots out there about it, and I don't know enough about it, but I know what I do. So I don't pay as close enough attention to my diet as I should. But I know I've taken enough. So I studied kinesiology, and that requires you to know a little bit of exercise physiology and nutrition. So what I do know is that there are 4 major food groups. Obviously, the fats, proteins, carbohydrates, water, and then sort of the nutrients that you need, sort of vitamins and things like that. What's actually the one big thing that I'll point out in this area is that carbs are usually seen as this as the preeminent in sort of like energy sources. But it turns out that the carbohydrates are actually bad for you in terms of they actually what leads to the formation of adipose tissue, right? So people don't want to be quote unquote fat, and they think that comes from fats. It doesn't actually come from fats. It comes from the processing of carbohydrates, right? Sugars, processed sugars and unprocessed sugars, and things like that are what lead to fat. It's sugars that lead to fat, not fats. So fats are actually pretty good for energy consumption, right? Because I don't want to go into the biochemistry of it because I don't know enough. I'm not as steeped into the literature as I was at a certain point. But fats and proteins are really good energy sources because they burn slower. So carbohydrates burn. They're sort of like the first energy source, I think. Yeah, they're sort of a quicker energy source, but they're not long lasting. They're sort of if you think about it as a fire, right? Because again, that's what your metabolic system is. You're breaking bonds of this major food groups, right? To make with oxygen, right? To make energy. So ATP is the energy source that your muscles and your muscles primarily need, right? And even because your muscles are really, the way actin and myosin work is that they're sliding on top of each other, which results from this sort of the breaking of bonds, right? So chemical bonds, and to break chemical bonds, you need energy to do that. To energy source in the body is ATP. Okay, so carbohydrates are sort of quick, but they dissipate quicker. But proteins and fats, they result in more energy production. Let's just put it that way. fats and proteins result in more energy production. And also, I don't know as much about the paleo diet, but like I said, I like to go as natural as possible and as old as possible, right? And so I do if there's any sort of dietary plan that I approve of, it's sort of the paleo diet. So I try to, but it's interesting, right? Because most of my diet is filled with carbs, so I'm trying to cut down the carbs and eat more sort of proteins and fats, and if I'm going to eat sugars, it's going to be from fruit, and if I try to regulate my water. So diet is a tricky one, but I would like to say proteins and fats over carbohydrates, and water, and try to get your nutrients. For me, I try to get them as healthy as possible. I know fruits don't have as much as maybe over-the-counter nutrients, but that's an area that I need to look into. But yeah, so quite simply for me, what this looks like on the diet front is less carbs, more protein, more fats, more nutrients, and more water, but less carbohydrates. I want to reduce my carbohydrate intake. And one thing that I didn't talk about here is snacking. I like to eat small meals, so a small breakfast, a small lunch, a small dinner, but I like to intersperse my day with sort of snacks. And so I eat a lot of nuts and like peanuts and almonds and things like that, and sort of plantain chips, and I drink coffee and things like that. I like to eat small meals, many small meals, and I don't know if that's the way to go. I know there's something to be said for timing your food with sort of like circadian rhythms and things like that, and I need to look more into that. But I would say this is probably the trickiest part, and this is probably the part where your N of 1 really matters, right? You need to know what your goals are, and then you need to pay attention to yourself. Keep a log, right? Pay attention, and this is something I need to do as well. Pay attention to what you're doing, because again, your goal might not be to look a certain way. Your goal might be to move a certain way, and if you can still move those ways that you want to move, and what I've noticed too is that sort of the more superficial part of physical attraction that people go to diets and exercise for will emerge, right? They emerge, right, from trying to achieve certain goals. So it's good to have goals and ways to challenge yourself, and you notice that if you have certain goals that you want to achieve, you need to eat a certain way. You need to, like I said, move a certain way. All right, so that's enough of diet. So last thing is rest. And what I've noticed, and this is something that it took me a long time to remember, because I went to undergraduate school as an engineer, and something that engineers joke about a lot is like, you sleep when you're there, just grind, work, and forget about sleep. Sleep is very crucial. I've noticed that if I don't get a good solid like 6 to 8 hours, I don't perform as well in my day. And actually, by getting good 6 to 8 hours, my days are just better. I feel much more alive. I want to interact with people more. Like I'm not grumpy, and I'm happy, and I don't know. That seems like a good thing to have. So in my sort of early 20s and my teens, so I started undergrad at 17. So from 17 roughly to 24, 25, 20, to actually 26, I was just like, Jesus Christ, rest can happen when I'm dead, because I was chasing a dream, and I was like, I want to achieve this thing as quickly as possible, and I want to be the best, and I didn't sleep as much, and I realized that sleep is very crucial. So sleep, it's important. Again, N of 1, right? I'm not gonna say that you must get absolutely 8 hours, but figure out what works for you. And that's the thing about this whole physical health thing that I've noticed, that physical health is the ultimate N of 1 experiment. There are going to be group studies that have done that. So, okay, this is what we noticed, that if this group of people do this and this other group of people do this, we notice this group is better. But there's going to be variation around the mean, right? Is even the mean the best way to study that? I don't know. As such, you need to take scientific studies about physical health with a grain of salt. You need to understand that before you apply them to yourself, you need to really understand that it may not work for you, or it may work for you, and you're not really flipping a coin, but you're playing the odds, right? It doesn't make it a bad study. It just means that there's variation around the mean, right? And you may fall on either side. Nobody's the mean, right? The mean is an artificial thing. Okay, so beyond sleep, I've noticed that there are other ways of leisure that are also important. For me, that's meditation, reading. Knitting, I've noticed that that's good for some of my friends, and I think it's a good way to sort of it's an activity that once you've mastered it, you can just sort of do it while you relax. And cleaning for me is a big one, and nature walks, just sort of being out in nature and sort of enjoying and getting some vitamin D too from the sun, and sort of breathing in some fresh air. A great way to have leisure time. And so the final thing I want to talk about is that while I have sort of my general routine, physical activity, I walk a lot, and I'm going to challenge myself with 5Ks every once in a while, and I'm going to play soccer and play tennis on a more leisurely level to get my to stress out my other domains, and I'm going to lift weights. Every once in a while, I'm going to challenge myself by physical activity. I'm going to go beyond my regular what I do. And for me, for physical activity, for in the endurance domain, I'm going to maybe do a half marathon, maybe do a marathon, maybe go for a really, really long bike ride, just to really push myself beyond that. And maybe every once in a while, I'll go beyond my regular weight capacity, or maybe for endurance, maybe I'll try take a dancing class, because dancing stresses out your flexibility, your agility, your balance, and your power, So maybe I'll take a dancing class, I took improv classes to help me stress out my mental acuity when I was in Seattle, and maybe I'll take dancing classes, or maybe I'll try ballet or something like that. Just something to really push me in those domains. Because again, soccer is something I've been playing for a long time. Tennis is something I've been playing for a long time. Actually, I'm not good at tennis, so maybe I'll take tennis classes, right? Or maybe I'll take a class in something to help me go beyond what I'm regularly do. And for diets, the big one is that I've noticed that fasts are important. It's just for a form of restriction for an extended period of time. Is just a good way to sort of stress your dietary system. I know intermittent fasting is helpful for your health. I don't know enough about it to recommend it. Again, everything I've said here, nothing is a recommendation. They're just an exploration of what I plan on doing, and sort of I want to stress the point that physical health is the ultimate end of one. So while you may read all those things, unless you try them for yourself, you're never going to know what really works for you. So before you take something out of hand and say it's not useful, and before you say it's useful, you need to try it out on yourself. And as such, the only things that I'm saying, I've noticed that fasts help me reset, and it's good for that. And rest, maybe on the scale of hours, I want to really push my meditation, right? I do like a good 10 minutes of just intense meditation. By that I mean just separating myself from myself, from entertainment devices and things like that, and really going deep into my mind. I don't want to be able to do this for hours, or even like maybe eventually do, if I have the money and the time, to do sort of retreats, right, meditation retreats, to really stress out my ability to be separated from sort of activity. Because if I ever got tested, I'm sure I'll be on the ADHD. I'll probably be diagnosed with that, because I like activity, and just to be able to separate myself from what I like to do, and to put myself in a different mode of being is something I know to be healthy. But anyways, that's it. That's the physical health one. I just want to stress that challenging is important. Challenging yourself is important. But also finding something that you can do routinely is also important. But most importantly, the thing I've noticed about physical health is that most of the experiments and studies done, so what I've noticed is that physical health recommendation comes in two camps. You have the anecdotal ones where somebody does something so awesome, like they're people I follow, influencers, right? They do awesome things, and they maintain such good health into consistently, and you go, wow, this is awesome. And then you sort of follow what they do, and you notice that it may not work for you all the time. So there's that camp, and there's also the scientific studies that have sort of variations around the mean, and they use linear statistics and things like that, and you wonder why those don't work for you. What I've noticed is that the ideal is sort of a blend of the two, right? You sort of take yourself as your science experiment. You go, okay, these are my goals that I want to achieve. How do I balance out my diet, my physical activity, my rest, so that I achieve my goals? And then you can pull tips from the influencers, from the science papers, from all your sources, and then you play around with them. Like maybe you try one for maybe like 2 to 3 months, and if you start seeing improvements, maybe you continue, and then maybe over time you say, maybe I can add something else to this. Maybe I can add something else to this. But I want to stress this fact is that with physical health, you are at the end of one experiment. So be diligent about it. Be disciplined about it. And actually, but more than that, know what your goals are. Because if you know what your goals are, you can adjust, right? You can adapt around your goals. All right. So that's it. I wish you well on your health journey. And I mean, yeah, if you listen to this, check in with me in 3 months and see how I'm doing. Because right now my life isn't exactly what I want it to be, so I'm not being diligent as I would like to be. But in a few months, maybe things will be better. But anyways, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoy and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.